Well, how do you like that?
That's very official sounding.
It is new Moss Macros soundtrack, basically.
Yeah, we now have our own theme music, courtesy of our good friend Rob Stein at at The Marching Meathead. If you want to follow him on Instagram, Rob's quite the bodybuilder himself.
Exactly. Hence the name Marching Meathead.
Marching Meathead. That sums him up pretty good.
Yeah, and he's done a few shows already. How many has he done so far, Stu? Two?
He's done two. He actually, this was just his first contest season. Placed second in the Bantams, open at the Hercules. Actually got a couple of judges' votes right there. The guy who beat him actually went on to win the overall, our other good friend Mike. That's quite a showing for a first time competitor.
Yes, and I will say, being to some of the Hercules shows throughout the years, that it actually is a very competitive show, and with a decent amount of competitors, and the competitors who go there and compete actually are pretty good. They show up in shape, and they have good development, and it's a good show to place in.
Right,
it's a pro qualifier.
And I gotta say, speaking of first contests, this is what I guess the subject of this podcast.
Yes.
Those of you guys, I don't know how many of you guys follow Brad on Instagram or Facebook or various forums. Brad just competed in his very, very first contest, something he's wanted to do. Get more into this, but since he was a teenager, and let's just say he did very well. Brad.
Thank you.
How well?
I took first place in my class for bodybuilding. I won the overall as well. And then on a lark, I did the physique shows as well. Physique debut, physique novice, physique open. Then I did the bodybuilding for my class, ANBF. The organizer just had it split down the middle because of the number of competitors. He just, had two classes rather than the standard, bantam, the light heavies, the middleweights. We just did two classes, light and heavy, and I was in the heavier class, and I won that class, and then I took the overall. And with physique, all three of them, I took second place, which was done on a whim, and we'll get into that a little later on how that came up. It's actually kind of funny, and it was done last minute. And as you said, I've been wanting to do a bodybuilding show for a very long time in my life, and I actually was interested in bodybuilding even before I went to a gym. So this was really a big milestone for me, a huge milestone for me. And I've always loved bodybuilding, loved going to the gym, but it just seemed like always that for various reasons in my life, whether it was, let's say, personal reasons or, let's say, work-related reasons, school-related reasons. I mean, bodybuilding takes a lot of your time, and to do a preparation for a bodybuilding contest, your life has to be kind of, Stu, would you say a chunk of your life has to be free, meaning you can't, there are certain things that you can't restrict you from doing the best prep you can. Meaning, let's say when you are expecting a child or you're taking on a new job or maybe you have a stressful school semester, I don't think that's the time of life to start doing the prep. I mean, that's just what I've gone for. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's the thing. You try to, and I know we've spoken about this before, you try to balance everything. You don't want anything to suffer.
Yes.
And as I know you discovered, just the mental stresses of trying to balance everything.
Yes.
That's tough, let alone all the physical demands.
Right.
I mean, your body is not happy with you while you're doing this, and I know that's something you experienced.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I sometimes look at it like this, like not, rambling or let's say veering too far off our topic, is that sometimes I regret not doing it while I was younger when I had less responsibilities. However, I did not have the mental dexterity to do when I was younger. For example, just other things that were going on in my life, my state of mind when I was younger, it wasn't there. It wasn't there to do it younger. I mean, I think that this should be started relatively young if you want to do it over and over and over again. But let's just get it out of the way, and I finally achieved this milestone at 37 years old of actually getting into a show. And my goal here was to actually, because of my love for bodybuilding, just simply to be a bodybuilder. I did not go into this show expecting anything, meaning I wasn't expecting to win the class. I wasn't expecting to walk away with a pro card, which I did. I just wanted to finally be a bodybuilder after all these years of watching it, being involved in it, and hanging with bodybuilders. I said, well, I would like to be considered a bodybuilder. Now, I know that for many people, let's say, some people would say, Stu, we've gone through this before. Let's say the lay person says, well, why do you want to do this? What's the big deal? We can't describe why it's a big deal to us.
You can't. Certain things appeal to people, and certain other things appeal to other people. And, there's always going to be people that don't understand why you're passionate about something, and that's okay.
Right.
And trying to, let me just explain. You know what? Some people just won't get it, and that's okay.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I just wanted to be a bodybuilder, as I said before, be considered a bodybuilder, and I went into the show whether I was going to place or not, lose, win. I just wanted to do a show already. And it was an exhilarating experience. And as we said, not only is the show a huge experience, but the preparation is a huge experience, which we're going to get into. I learned a great deal about contest preparation, considering I had pretty much my best friend as my coach, and Stu is a veteran of bodybuilding, meaning that he's a WNBF pro, and also you are a what is it? The other organization?
Oh, the USBF, yeah.
Or OCB, or
USBF.
Okay, USBF.
Yeah, I did that before.
Okay.
Entering this.
So I and then also I have my other good friends that are my other good friend Arash, who's been on this podcast with us before, who's actually an IFBB pro, and I actually know people that are bodybuilders, people that are pro bodybuilders. We'll get into it later. Actually, the support system that I had throughout this contest prep, it was not just Stu. I mean, Stu is my right hand man, my prep. However, I had other people to speak to and also people to fall back on when the rigors of this prep became enormously difficult for me.
Well, I mean, do you want to talk about that? Because I think that's hysterical. Well, not I don't want to say hysterical, but
yes.
Let's think about I guess what short term, long term. Started this prep. I know what I gave you to work with, and I tend to ease into things a lot. And I know people were asking you how is it, and you're thinking this isn't bad at all.
Right. Now, I had an idea of what a contest prep is like, meaning that I knew that it was not going to be all fun and games. Being that I never did one before, and I actually had some fat to lose, regardless of the prep. I mean, I actually started feeling really good 4 weeks into it. I mean, I dropped some fat, felt lighter on my feet. My cardio was improving. My overall work capacity improved. I started training more like a traditional bodybuilder, more volume, not going to failure. So I really felt like I was ramping up my fitness level just in general. So I felt like I was on fire. Even midway through the prep, I felt I was on fire too. Just from the sheer amount of volume, working up my volume, working up my cardio, so an overall high degree of fitness or a high degree of exercise tolerance. And I felt lighter on my feet. I could bust out more chin-ups, bust out more dips, things like that. Run a little easier, handle my cardio better. Now, regardless of that.
All right, when did things get tough?
Okay. Things started getting tough midway, but I was still really tough mentally as well. I mean, I was still killing it in the gym. I go to a gym. I go to a gym and kill my legs and be ready to basically to when you get in that mindset of working out, you're ready to murder people, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
you're going beast mode, bruh.
Yes, I was going beast mode actually. In the context of it, no matter how corny beast mode is as a term, I was in beast mode. You know what I'm trying to say? I was.
Well, that's the thing.
Yes.
I remember the old gym I used to train at, Regal Park, and
yes.
it was like a joke. I'd walk in after working, all day at work, go home, walk my dogs, take care of whatever I had to take care of, go to the gym, and something I said once or twice, and it kind of became a thing that guys expected me to say was, this is my second office, business as usual.
Yes.
I am here with a job to do.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm not saying it wasn't enjoyable.
Right.
You have work to do.
Exactly, and that's how I think a prep should be treated. I mean, a lot of people here who are in the fitness world say, we're not soldiers, we're not warriors. I mean, yeah, I get that. When I say hardcore bodybuilding, I don't mean we're hardcore in the sense that we're like Navy SEALs or something, but I'm saying that in the context of bodybuilding, you should be hardcore in that context.
Well, there's the discipline involved.
Yes, it's involved.
Yes. I know it's been kind of a joke, every time you feel run down and you'd ask me, well, is this all right?
Yeah.
I'd say, well, look, your body thinks you're trying to kill it.
Exactly.
You're not giving it enough food.
Yes.
The physical demands you're placing on it are rough. You're probably not getting enough rest because you still have to go out with your wife. You still have to take care of work. You still have to do all the daily errands. There never seems to be enough time or enough energy.
Exactly. And that's really what happened as well. I mean, that, let's say midway, you start to feel it. You start to feel the demands of the prep on you, mentally and physically. It was okay midway. I was starting to feel it. However, towards the end, let's say the last 6 to 8 weeks, I mean, at the 8 week mark, if I recall, really difficult. 6 week mark, we're working on sheer willpower here. Every single day. I'm not exaggerating. I mean, this is a self-inflicted hobby. I knew it was going to be rough, but the last 6 weeks were becoming rougher and rougher and rougher. I mean, at that point, I think I was just going on sheer willpower. And also by that time, your physical activity is so increased from before. Your body fat levels are dropping to levels that normal health does not. It is not a normal health indicator, so to speak, meaning that single-digit body fat is not healthy. Healthy levels are, let's say, 10+%. You start dipping down to like 8, 7, 6%. Then your body and mind really start changing, and also you'll be woken up from the low blood sugar during the night, and you have broken sleep. You still have cardio to do before work, before your breakfast, and then there's your work day, and there's training at night, plus all the other things of life. And then you start really feeling worn down. And then that's the point where you ask yourself, or at least I ask myself, why am I doing this to myself? What is the point of all this? This is probably the most physical and mental strain I've ever inflicted upon myself. But I wanted to be a bodybuilder, and now I can say I'm a bodybuilder because I actually entered a contest. And to anybody listening who's contemplating a contest, I am going to tell you that it's going to be one of the most difficult pastimes or hobbies that you ever engage in voluntarily. It is not a game when you want to come in shape.
Yes. Well, I got to say, that's the when you want to come in shape.
Yes.
Okay? I promised you that I would bring you in shape.
Shredded, yes.
You would come in shredded. You are unquestionably the most conditioned athlete at this entire show.
Yes.
And backstage, back in the little pump-up area, dude, everyone, like, you are, something me and Rob, joke about is you want to be that guy.
Yes.
The one that backstage, everyone's feeling good until they look around in the corner and they see that guy.
Yes.
And they know that guy suffered more than I did.
Yes.
That guy worked harder than I did.
Right.
That guy is probably going to beat me.
Yeah, you see, you want to be that guy. Exactly. You want to be that guy. The thing is, I didn't know what I was that guy because I had no expectations. However, I did know that we did the proper work together, me and Stu. Stu gave me the plan, and I followed the plan. Now, you want to be that guy, meaning that I've been a fan of bodybuilding for a long time. I have friends that are bodybuilders. I always knew that, you look at Dennis Wolf before the Olympia, and he's still wearing a sweatshirt. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that you see the gaunt face, and you look at the unhappiness of the competitor.
Yeah.
And the miserable look on the face is that it's that guy. That guy, when he takes his shirt off, he's going to be shredded to the bone.
Well, look, I remember, and I think we both share this memory. Jay Cutler in 2009.
Yeah.
The Olympia press conference, totally covered up. And you see like almost striations in like the back of his neck.
Yes.
Like in his jaw.
Yes.
And without him even peeling down, you're like, Jay brought it.
Yes. Or like, Dorian, you see Dorian and, sometimes, I would see Dorian clothed and you would see the sunken and miserable look on Dorian's face. And, that indicates the conditioning of the person because you don't get a sunken face overnight.
So Brad, did you appreciate when people looked at you like, oh, that poor boy, he must be dying?
Actually, the thing is that it was
he must be sick.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing. The thing is that there was one time where I was always, be worrying to you, Stu, are we on time? Are we on time? Are we on time? And then when I started getting in the comments at work, people would say, "What's wrong? Is this healthy? Is what you're doing to yourself all right? Like,
Not in the least.
Yeah, you look so skinny. Like, what's going on here? Are you eating?" At that point, when I started getting those comments, I was actually happy. I was actually very happy. I'm like, okay, it's working, finally. That's when the belt loop started getting, I had to go one extra belt loop tighter, another belt loop tighter, pants falling off. That's when I knew that we were there. I'm just going to say that it got more and more difficult. So if you want to come in really in shape, I don't care what anybody says. These fitness riders who said that they walk around year round at 5%, they're walking around shredded all year long. That to me is an indication of lying because no one is walking around like this year round. It is impossible to hold, and it's called a peak for a reason. So that's really what it is sent down to. it was just a grueling experience, especially for someone who is 30-something years old, who has a full-time job and a wife, and people to deal with. I mean, but then again, there were restrictions put on our lives. There were restrictions put on in our life because of this prep. And my wife was supportive of it, and my family was supportive of it. They understood. The restriction is over. I mean, not so much. We still got to work out and all that stuff and get ready and build more muscle, but it's like a contest prep. So that's all I'm going to say about the experience. And well, I mean, there were some freak out moments all along the way that we would like to mention. Actually,
Really?
Yes, freak out moments where I'd call Stu, I'd call my other friends. You know, my friend Raj, my friend Mike, Rob. Like, you know, is this supposed to happen? Am I supposed to feel somewhat detached, somewhat single-minded? Feel like this is taking over my life, is all-consuming, feeling a bit depersonalized, because let's face it, when you're on low carbs, low calorie, plus you're increasing your intake, you just don't feel right. You just don't feel the same, you know. The brain chemistry changes, the chemistry of the body changes, the sleep is broken, and that's what leads to the freak-out moments. The freak-out moments is like, is it going to be safe for me to go to the gym today? You know, this is nagging me. You know, I developed a little bit of sciatic pain because my muscles on my left side of my thigh were becoming extremely tight. My medial glute, my piriformis. Thankfully, it's nothing with like hard tissue or nerve damage or anything like that. But you know, things start popping up that wouldn't be evident before because you're on such a physically taxing regimen. I mean, let's say you were like, let's say, kind of like an asymmetrical anatomy where you shift to the left or you shift to the right, or your body's not the most symmetrical. Well, you know, when you're working out and going about your life in your so-called off season, it might not be exacerbated. Once you start ramping it up to an hour walk before every breakfast, plus your intervals, plus your squatting, deadlifting, etc., things that were not evident before that hurt you now start to hurt. And you always want to go on that line of safety and health because, Stu, let's face it, you're a contest prep coach, right? Mm. There are some contest prep coaches that are totally negligent of people's health.
You know, I mean, look, I would never throw anyone under the bus.
We're not. We're not.
But look, most of these people have no business helping anyone out.
Right.
Like seriously, most of them have no business.
I mean, right, exactly. I mean, we're not. See, the thing is, what I'm going to go about Stu with our experience as well, is that, you know, we're not into this thing of like, you know, feeding a woman 1,000 calories a day or feeding a man, you know, 1,800 calories for weeks on end. Maybe at the end you got to go down to 1,800, 1,900. But, you know, Stu, you know some people out there who are wrecking the client out from the gate. I mean, starting off with ketogenic diets from the gate, 1,000 calories, you know, 5 hours of cardio out of the gate per week. Like, this is a little, you know, too much.
Well, that's the thing. And think about it. When we started,
conservative.
There were a couple of times we were like, should we push harder down? And I'm like, no. We this is the time we have.
Yes.
And over the time we had, we played a lot of different cards.
Yes.
I think I was saying before, I've got like eight different spreadsheets, different changes that we made, you know, all along with the 4 or 5 months there. You dropped 36 pounds.
Yes, 36, a lot of
36 pounds. And I got to say, muscle retention, perfect. What, 95%? I never want to say 100%. Right, dude, you kept your size.
Right. I mean, I even think in some areas the size was brought up actually a little bit. Like,
well, I do think we actually made progress on a cut, which I've done with several clients before, and I know everyone will always say, "Oh, you never come out of a prep with more muscle than you go into it," but you do. You do if you do things right.
Yeah, because I was lagging in the chest and back, and I think it's more like due to like inadequate programming, or not inadequate, just not the most optimal programming. So when you start programming right, even though you're a caloric deficit, something happens. And we're not going to bullshit anybody. You know, we're two guys that are realistic. We're not going to bullshit people and say like, yeah, you know, I grew into the show, or like, you know, I gained 10 pounds of muscle as a grown man at 37 years old in 3 months. Like, no, I didn't. You know what I'm trying to say? We're realistic. Mm-hmm. We just think that maybe a little bit of muscle in the right places came up. Exactly. Lats and pecs, and really that's it, really. I mean, I even lost some leg mass, but that was to be expected, though. I knew I was going to lose some leg mass to get the condition I had.
You know, when the majority of cardio work you're doing is lower body centric, lower body takes a pounding. Even if you're doing all low intensity work, there's no way around that. That's there you go.
Exactly. That's what happened, and you know, I'm fine with that because to reach the conditioning, I'd rather have the conditioning. I also had some leg mass to spare. My legs are my strong point. I can't say that for my chest. My chest was brought up a little bit, actually. My legs were a strong point that actually had some mass to lose and come in shape anyway, with a nice shape. Now, There were the freak out moments where I would call Stu and stuff like that. I had a good support system that led me through this. And also, what we want to cover also is the self-imposed restriction on freedoms, right? We did cover that actually.
Get back to your prep, man.
Well, back to the prep actually.
This is all we're talking about. We're just talking about your contest.
Exactly right. Exactly. Well, let's go into the strategy of the prep. Actually, that's what we want to cover.
If you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought this would focus more on your experience.
Yes. So we're going to go through the experience of the prep. The thing is this though is that we had that, and now the strategies that basically we see. I was getting a lot of questions. Let's say on social media because I'm active on social media, bodybuilding forums, which is forums, social media. People would always ask me, what are your macros? And now we want to hit home on this also, right? This is a very tailored, specific approach to this. Methodical, right? Now, people would say, what are your macros? Sometimes I get the impression that they would want to actually copy what I'm doing now, not understanding that this is a whole lead into one decision from the next. I mean, we went from carb rotation. We started off on carb rotation.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we kept carb rotation through
the
lot
entire
of this,
thing, yes.
But we look. No coach is gonna. No smart, reputable coach is going to be able to tell you at the first week of a prep what you're going to be doing in the 16th week. There's no way. There is a constant tracking of variables, a constant reassessment, a constant adjusting as you go along.
Yes.
Now there were weeks. There were periods where we had to change things from week to week, and there were periods where we were able to ride like 3 or 4 weeks without any changes whatsoever. Now, for the most part, and I think you'll agree with this, it wasn't the worst thing in the world for the majority of it.
Right.
Anyone who tells you, "Oh, dude, I could have you doing this, and it'll be fine, and you'll be smiling," and it's bullshit.
It is bullshit.
That's bullshit. You just lost 36 pounds. That's not comfortable.
Yes.
Not comfortable.
Yes.
Your body
Exactly.
gets used to that. Luckily, and I was joking about this through I don't know how many months we were doing this, constantly telling you that it will be worth it. Brad, was it worth it?
Unequivocally, yes. Because being an RD who really, I'm a registered dietitian, I have a degree in nutrition, I'm a registered dietitian. My goal was to eventually learn the ins and outs of contest prep from a dietary perspective as well. Plus, it is worth it because I always wanted to be in the bodybuilding community or subculture, just be called a bodybuilder. And I got to say that it was worth it because when I was on that stage that day, that was one of the most meaningful, memorable, exciting, exhilarating, whatever adjective you want to prefer to use. It was one of the best days of my life. I mean, I was very nervous in the beginning, fumbling and not knowing what to do, and I would expect it from any noob, any person who's new to something, not knowing exactly what to do and where to place yourself in a show. And I mean, place yourself meaning that, going through the motions, you know what I'm saying? And being in a lineup and being called out and where you should place yourself, where you should go first and what it's going to feel like. But I really felt that it was one of the most fun days of my life. And it was exhausting but exciting, and it was all worth it.
Why don't you actually talk about it?
Well, yes, exactly.
Yes. I came by. I picked you up in the morning. We were going to head over into Jersey.
I was
going through your head.
Exactly. I was just talking about the worth of it. Now we're going to go into the experience. I was saying, it was worth it. Now we're going to the experience. Mm-hmm. Stu came by. I mean, as the show was leading up, it started to become almost like a surreal feeling. I mean, I always wanted to look like a bodybuilder, and we had the experience of Stu picking me up, and that morning it was almost surreal. He picked me up and started going through my checklist. Started going through my checklist of what we have to do, and what we got to bring. Do we have my carb up food? Do we have my posing trunks? Do we have my?
You're wearing the lucky hoodie.
Yes. Do I have my Nutella on? How does my protein look? I'm wearing the Wolfpack hoodie. I'm wearing Wolfpack clothing. My friend's brand, actually his contest prep brand, and it's so freaking exciting. It's I had the biggest shitting grin on the whole day. It was one of the whole thing was so goddamn fun. We went there. We went up to New Jersey. Then we was at the rest stop so I could eat my freaking Nutella and peanut butter covered rice cake.
You got some nice looks from people at the rest stop.
Oh, I got some nice people at the rest stop because I was nice Donald Trump orange hue. And then, people staring at me there because my fake pro tan. And that was awesome. And then we went to the place and, I checked in, did the polygraph. I met the organizer and of the show and the president of the ANBF, American Natural Bodybuilding Federation, Kent Burley. He was great to talk to, and he ran a great show. And then, it's like finally here. It's like...
All right, well, I mean, you want to go through the morning? We checked in.
Yes.
We checked in, which is great. It was, I gotta say, it was on the ride up that, kind of as a joke, I said to Brad, look, you're in shape. We dialed you in.
Yes.
Like you're freaking diced. You got like veins running through your freaking veins. And,
yes, exactly.
And you got striations on those veins.
Yes.
I said, we should stop at like a Target or something and buy you a pair of cheap board shorts. And
that was on the one because we were looking through the schedule as we were driving. We were going through the schedule, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, physique. You could do physique. Yeah, you want to pick up a pair of board shorts? We'll go to a pair. And I'm like, I text my wife. I'm like, Dale, could you print some board shorts? Could you stop at Modell's before you drive up here? My board shorts are up in the attic, and we're not going back into the attic to fish them out. And then we call my friend Darash, and he had a pair of nice, he competed as a physique competitor in the NPC and IPPB, so he actually brought up a really nice pair of like Hurley board shorts, the ones that the pros and IPB use.
Oh, dude, he brought like 6 different ones. The Rosh came through with the board shorts.
Yeah, he came through with the board shorts. He gave me a selection to choose from, and I chose a nice pair. You can actually see it on my Facebook. If you're on my Facebook, you just use my name, Bradley Grunner, or my Instagram at Mas Macros, MASMACROS. Check out some of those photographs where I just did the physique on the Lark. And, I did all of it that day. I did novice bodybuilding. I did the heavier class bodybuilding. I did debut physique, novice physique, and open physique.
And dude, you did a lot.
Yes, and it was an exhausting day. Basically, the entire day was me posing, pumping up, and eating the most sugary, fat-laden, salt-laden foods. Freaking, stew. I had me feeding on, Nutella-covered rice cakes with tons of salt on it, and drinking, sparing amounts of water, and, pumping up backstage with my, dumbbells, push-ups, lateral raises, the bent-over dumbbell rows, just pumping and posing and in and out and being called for the class. It was really crazy, but seriously, I felt like I could go on forever. I was just running on fumes. I didn't feel tired in the slightest. I felt like I didn't even want to leave the stage. And it was so much fun. And basically what's funny, actually, is that I learned the physique poses. I learned the physique mandatories in about, Alon Powers. He's a WMBF physique pro. He taught me the physique poses in about, 15 minutes?
Yeah, I got to say, Alon came out to, show support. He's, I'm actually going to be working with him in the future, which is great. He's a great guy. And I was surprised, like, he's going to trek all the way to Jersey. Like, that's cool, man. And I had showed Brad, like, the very, very basic, this is how you do the physique poses. And then halfway through, I'm like, wait, what the hell am I doing? Alon's a WMBF pro. Like, here, grab him. And seriously, it's like, his posing was spot on. I mean, seriously, it's like Brad was getting compliments from people in the audience. Like, yeah, you're posing better than the guy that actually won.
Yeah, because I was getting that, actually. And my DVD, actually, from the professional photographer for AMBF, his name is Lance Tyler's a really nice guy, too. I'm really satisfied with the photos that he took of me. Actually, my DVD is coming to me in about 4 to 6 weeks, and I'll be putting those videos up on my YouTube channel. I'm Bradley Grunner on there, and you'll see everything that went down. My physique class and my bodybuilding class. You'll see that on YouTube in a few weeks, actually. And you'll see, I mean, I think that the physique poses came out right. I had some people screaming at me from the audience of what I should be doing, sucking in the...
You had a lot of people screaming.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing also is that I really benefited from as well. It was so exciting and meaningful to me is that all my friends... not all my close friends, but all my close bodybuilder friends within the audience. And now, when I say I had a support group... I had the best support group a competitor could have.
Dude, honestly, it was insane, the crew that you had.
Yes, we had 2 IFB Olympia competitors, Juliana Malacarne and Arash Barb, 2 of my close friends, IFB pros. We had Stu, WMBF pro, Michael Reganella, WMBF pro, and my friend Alon Powers, the physique
WMBF pro.
WMBF, as I said before, WMBF physique pro, and also we got Rob, who actually finished second in the Hercules, bantamweight?
Yeah.
Second this past summer in bantamweight Hercules, which is a no-joke show. You place there, even if you don't turn pro in the overall, it's a great show. So I had a great support group.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You had an insane support group.
So that was very helpful to me also. And just as a side, made my prep go very well also because of all the inside expertise I had from a variety of sources. Overall, I was really happy with the way the show was run. And I liked the way, it was just really fun, and I met some really cool people, and I liked the way Kent ran it, and he provided me with the opportunity to compete. So I'm just thankful that, for the whole experience. So, and then I went through all the divisions, and then I won my class, and then I won the overall and got an AFBF Pro card, and I actually very, very happy that I got this accomplishment under my belt, and I'm really looking forward to doing an actual pro show, finally. So
finally, you did one contest.
Yeah, exactly. Not finally, but to finally, be in a show and now I can have a chance to compete as a pro, which I never thought would happen. And I know that the pro level is. I mean, I have respect for all people who are in the show with me. I think that the pro level, I know what I'm in store for. I know.
Well, dude, you saw. Yeah. Guys, I guess it was the guest poser there, Siobhan Cunningham.
Yes.
And for people that don't follow sports, Siobhan's like a 7-time world champ.
Yes.
He's also one of the nicest guys. He's huge. He's huge. I remember, the year I won my WNBF Pro card, I saw him at the Worlds, and I was in the audience. And I remember watching this guy come out, same weight class that I compete in, and just thinking to myself, that's it. I'm done.
Right, exactly.
No more trophies for me. Siobhan was in the audience when Brad was on. I know Siobhan. We chat at contests. Again, very, very nice guy. I have nothing but, good stuff to say about him.
Yeah, exactly.
He came running backstage after Brad got off, complimenting Brad left and right.
Yes.
You're posing, you're conditioning, you're this and that, and dude, this is your contest. And it was really nice. And after Brad did his physique pre-judging, Siobhan came running backstage again. He goes, okay, holy crap, I just watched you learn how to do those poses 15 minutes ago, and you were the best poser out there in the physique class.
Yeah.
But I got to say, the highlight of the night,
yes,
that relates to Siobhan, and I'll say this if Brad doesn't have to, is at the end of the contest, and Brad's, backstage in a hallway or something, off of the main auditorium where they had the show. And Siobhan comes over, and he's got his wife, he's got his son. And his son's wearing one of, Dad's medals, which is pretty cool. His dad's 7-time world champ. And Siobhan's got, he's got his hand on his son's back, and he goes, he kind of looks at Brad, he looks down at his son, and he said, well, here you go. You wanted to meet the bodybuilder that you were cheering for.
Yeah.
And there it is. There's Brad.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Siobhan's little kid was cheering for Brad from the audience.
Yeah, it was a very good feeling, yeah.
That was just awesome.
It was awesome. The whole day was an awesome experience. I mean, I liked it, some of the, there was one guy there, I think that he was a judge actually, he was giving me feedback at the end of it, and I just really had an awesome experience, and I really want to get more involved in the AMBF, whether I'm, going to do a show in maybe a year or so. I was just really pleased with what the organization has to offer, so go forward with that.
Okay, so now, it's been, well, I guess, a week since the show?
Yes.
A week since the show. How are you feeling? How was it, and this is important,
yes,
how was it waking up Monday? Okay, you wanted to do this since you were a kid.
Yes.
You beat the crap out of yourself.
Yes.
Intelligently, with a plan, with a strategy for 5 months.
Yes.
Hoping to just, look like you belong, look like a freaking bodybuilder.
Yes.
You wake up Monday. I know you had the text from me calling you, hey, champ. How you feeling?
Yeah.
How you feeling on Monday morning?
Well, even Sunday morning, I really couldn't sleep that much because I was so excited. I got up, far earlier than my wife, and I was just so ecstatic. I was just actually up early on Monday morning, far earlier than I had to be up for work actually, because I was still exhilarated and excited, and just sitting in my chair, staring at my trophies and looking at photographs online, and looking at photographs on my phone, and just being happy, just sitting there, actually doing. Not thinking about nothing, but actually doing nothing, but just thinking about the experience and being absolutely ecstatic about the entire experience. I mean, finally, I set out to achieve what I wanted to do, and, obviously I'm not Dorian Yates, I'm not Lehaney, but in my own little personal way, do what I was dreaming about since I was a little kid. Despite not being a household name or a bodybuilding name. It's just so important to me personally that I was like on cloud nine for several days after the fact. Now I'm a little more, the high goes away. We got to go back to life here. You know what I'm saying? But I would say till about Tuesday or Wednesday, I was just high, naturally high, like high as a freaking kite. Like until then, and now I feel still very good about myself, and I'm still reflecting on the experience and what I want to do next. But it felt amazing. Yes.
Okay. Looking back at it all.
Yes.
What misconceptions did you have that now you view things differently?
Misconceptions, maybe are you referring to, let's say, how difficult it is, or let's say, like, for example, like I knew it was going to be difficult. I knew it was going to be difficult. I knew that well, I always even a misconception was maybe I would even think that before this I thought that maybe posing was a simple thing, or maybe posing is not a simple thing. Being up there under hot lights and being asked to do pose after pose after pose, especially in different divisions or call-outs or whatever, is very difficult. That was a misconception I had. I thought it was just, posing. Well, what could posing be? Posing is exhausting. It's uncomfortable. I mean, if you're hitting them right, it's uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable, chances are you're hitting the pose right. That's what I think, actually.
You smiled through them, though.
Yeah, smile through them. I made a big, I personally had a natural smile up there because I was just so happy to be up there already. I mean, I was happy, ecstatic to be there. Other misconceptions, I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't know how hard. I did not know how hard the contest prep could be. That's one of them. I mean, a second one of them. I don't think I really had any other misconceptions, actually. These are the two big ones I had.
Could anything of, like, really, I mean, no matter how many times I told you this is going to get tough, could anything have really put you in that headspace?
No, I don't really think anything could be put in its headspace of, let's say, and again, this is a hobby that we take up for our own volition. I'm not saying that this is mandatory, that we have to do this, we have to torture ourselves, but in the context of bodybuilding, in the context of this choice, you could feel pretty miserable on a prep. I believe, when I'm up at 4:30 in the morning, it's drizzling outside, I haven't eaten yet, and I'm also hungry because I really haven't eaten much the night before. And all the stress that is piling up on your body. Let's say you're doing your cardio after a leg day or a back day, and you got to pump in your legs already, you're sore in your back, and now you're asked to, like, move. It's kind of hard, especially on low sleep. And no, I don't think you could describe the difficulty of it until you're in it. I mean, your body starts feeling like it wants to slow down. Like, even people at work, one guy told me at work, he said, Brad, you're usually quick on your feet. You're usually a very fast talker. As you can see, it's one of my bad habits, actually. Possibly talking too fast sometimes. He said, you seem like you're a man under stress lately. You seem like you're moving slow. And I said, that's because I am I am moving slower than usual now. And that's really what people can't describe about a prep. And also, they're not going to be able to prepare you to dig within yourself to get through it. I mean, there's no one that's, for example, you could have it's a good lesson to take home, actually. You could have a prep coach who gives you the exact perfect dietary changes, perfect training changes, but if you do not summon the willpower or discipline to do this, despite how much your mind and body are turning on you, then you can't get through the prep properly.
Yeah, what Rosh always comes back to, it's about intensity. It's not the plan, it's what you bring to the plan.
Right. And there are times where you're going to go to the gym where you don't know how you might not. You have to give it, I learned, 100% within the context of what you're dealing with. Meaning, like, you might have, let's say, like you said before, you maybe have, let's say, half the tank left, but you got to use half the tank. Meaning, you might beat yourself up because you're not putting up PRs, or feeling like you usually do, or not feeling as, like you have the leverage you usually have to push the heavy weights, you know what I'm saying? But you still got to give 100%, even though it's not your previous 100%. And that is very hard to do.
Well, something that, I think there were a few times where you called me up with questions like, well, what about this? Or I'm not feeling so great here. Or can I, it's taco night. Can I, and I would point out to you that you could probably do this, but is this something you're going to think about on stage when someone's a little bit comparable to you, and you're thinking, oh my God, why did I skip that one day, or why did I do
Right.
and going into this, I don't think either one of us were planning, all right, Brad, we're going to win your class, we're going to win the overall, we're going to win a pro card. No, we were thinking, get up there, be proud of how you look. I always said, what's our end game? The end game is be proud of how you look like a bodybuilder, get some great photos, be able to say, I didn't take any shortcuts. I didn't cheat myself. I gave everything that I had.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if we're lucky, you take a trophy home.
Right. You see, I want to touch upon that also, actually. And as silly as it sounds, again, I am being repetitive because we're only talking in the context of bodybuilding. The context of bodybuilding, and especially being a new person to this, is that I went into this actually being a new person, inexperienced, don't really know much. However, I said to myself, I'm going to treat this as if I was a pro. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that I'm not a pro. I likely will not even place. I likely will not be a pro, actually. But I'm going to treat this as a pro. Meaning if someone is better than me, or I don't place, they're going to know that I put in all the goddamn work I can. Meaning, let's say they place in front of me, they're still going to look at me and say, that guy suffered through this. You know what? I beat that guy, but that guy's a tough, he did what he had to do. I beat him, but he did what he had to do. And that's all I really wanted from him. I mean, that when I was training, I would say, what would a pro do? I mean, I'm a noob. I'm a novice. What would a pro do? You know what I'm saying? Meaning, like, also...
What would Dorian do?
Or, like, what would Dorian do? Meaning, obviously, we're not at war here. We're not, like, heroes. You know what I'm saying? This is a hobby. But I really was training in the context of bodybuilding as if I did want to destroy people, actually. Meaning, I would be in the gym, and... when you're doing this volitionary suffering, you start thinking like that. You just want people to know that they are going to recognize that you went through the motions you're supposed to. Whether you're going through, a novice show or you're competing against the best, you better go down. What's the saying? Like, go down in flames or whatever,
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I understand what you mean when you say, treat this like a pro. Now, to me, it's just, well, you treat it seriously.
Yes.
Like, if you don't give your all,
yes,
then... What, you're going to be the guy going home thinking, well, that guy beat me, but, I had if you gave your all or not, and it's not even just in terms of intensity and commitment. It's in terms of really knowing what you're doing.
Yes.
I mean, I know you know what I'm talking about when I say there are plenty of people that really kind of half-ass and wing it.
Right.
Dude, we track every variable.
Yes.
We found patterns. We knew what your weight was going to be before we got there. Dude, I predicted 6 months ago what you were going to weigh on stage day. I think I was off by a pound.
Yes, off by a pound. And not only that, let's go through some of the things here also. We could sometimes predict what people are going to neglect. For example, many people, let's say, neglect hamstrings, rear delts. They just neglect things that we're assuming they're going to neglect. You know what I'm trying to say?
Well, that's the thing. We didn't neglect anything.
Right.
You can't count on other people dropping the ball. You have to make sure that you do everything within your power,
right,
within your control. And again, that's knowledge. If you don't know what you're doing,
yes, exactly,
then figure it out, and because otherwise you're just deluding yourself.
Right. And now that I know that the next show, if I ever, when I do one, it will be against very experienced people.
Oh, dude, you and Siobhan, man.
Well, yeah, then I have to just accept that I'm not. I just accept that I'm not going in first place if it ever happens. Then I'm like, okay, can I get fifth place? Can I get something? But
find a nice small show, you and him.
Yeah, exactly.
I took second to Siobhan Cunningham.
Actually, that would be kind of cool. I'm like, I share the stage with the best guy in the world. Could you do that? I'm glad to take second place next to him. I'm glad to lose to him. That could happen. Who the hell knows? I mean, like, I don't really have a big ego. I'm like, I'm even flabbergasted I did what I did. Like, I wasn't even expecting it. I don't have, like, the best genes in the world. I'm not, like, freaking Lee Priest or something like that. But, however, it was a great experience, and I want to see what I can do in the future. And I know that next time around it'll be very tough. Very tough. This was tough, but it'll be tougher. I mean, that's what being a pro is.
You got to improve now.
I got to improve some weak points or whatever, and come in really good. And that's just how we'll go. Yes.
It was all worth it, though. Huh?
Of course, it was all worth it. I mean, that's what I want to do.
And wait, come on. And how many times, as we were driving up there?
Yes.
We were driving up there that morning. Okay. we stopped. After I guess we checked in, we ran out to a Kohl's,
Yeah.
right, just in case we needed to buy some extra shorts and stuff. And you're staring at yourself in the freaking mirror.
Yes, of
You're
course.
staring at yourself like a goddamn kid.
In the dressing room. Yes.
And all I keep asking you is, was I right?
You were right.
And wait, how did I phrase it? I said, repeat after me. Stu was right.
Yeah, you were right. Now, exactly. Let's just back up for a second, and then we'll wrap it up. Actually,
right.
Is that touching upon that, was it worth it? I mean, that when I was in my depletion week, let's say the ketogenic, plus depletion workouts, feeling like flat as a pancake, and then I carved up on the Friday before the show, and I can honestly say, the show was October 15th. I can say that October 14th was the actual first day in my life that I actually looked like a bodybuilder. So I went in the gym. I went to I did like a super compensation workout to pump my chest a little bit because it's a weak point. And, I had the carbs in me. I was already through like 250 of my 500 allotted grams of carbs for the day. So I was like, kind of like, carb loading, puff, inflating kind of, right? I took off my shirt in the dressing in the aerobics room, and I was flabbergasted. I mean, I don't want to sound narcissistic. That's not what this is about. It's not about narcissism. It's like I took off my shirt and revealed my creation without even knowing how I was going to look at the carb, but I could not believe what I did. I'm like flabbergasted what I did myself. I'm like, I finally look like a bodybuilder after 25 years of hearing the word bodybuilder, meaning that 12 years old in 1992, looking at a picture of Robbie Robinson and asking my uncle, how the hell do these people look like that? What do you do? What do you got to do to look like that? And finally looking like one was, to me, a big deal. A really huge, big deal. So it felt amazing. I was actually fatigued that day, going to the gym a little bit naturally, and I just basically stormed out of the gym and was so ecstatic to share my pictures with Stu. It was like an unworldly, just drug-free high. It was a high that required no drugs, and it was an amazing feeling, and I still feel amazing. And I feel like I did this also because I eventually, through my experience, want to help others go through this process. And you can't help others in this process without going through yourself. So I really want to be a role model of like what it is to be in shape and what it is to get shredded before I start coaching other people. But really, I want to blend my knowledge of, let's say, academic knowledge, being a registered dietitian, with the bodybuilding knowledge, because you don't go to school to learn this. I mean, the trend these days is for people to throw around studies, and we see these smart Alex online who we don't know what the hell they look like, never been on a bodybuilding stage, who tell bodybuilders what to do and quote studies and shuffle studies around. But this is not how it is. This is learned from generation to generation of bodybuilder, not professor to student in a classroom or through studies. And I basically went to Stu finds it kind of funny. It's like I went to bodybuilding university. It's like, yeah, I went to Study Post for my nutrition degrees and Stony Brook for my dietetic internship, but I went to bodybuilding university this year. And you don't learn that in a classroom. That's not classroom knowledge. I don't care what anybody says. I don't really care. You know who the smart Alex out there are. You want to be a bodybuilder, you go to a bodybuilder to be a bodybuilder. That's how it is. So,
Brad, I think honestly, I think that's great you touching on it like that. Because look, I think you're one of the brightest guys I know.
Thank you.
I love when we chat, nutrition and stuff, and I'm all for keeping abreast of the science stuff. But yeah, there's it really is only like the last 5-6 years you got these experts quoting the science stuff online, and something you and I have talked about in the past was how many RDs do you know who can't lose weight?
Right, exactly.
And how many guys do you know who've never been on a bodybuilding stage, but they're going to tell you how to be a bodybuilder?
Right.
That's
really what's going on now.
Yeah. So, this is, look, you've always been able to talk the talk, and now you unequivocally, dude, you walk the walk, man.
I'm glad of that.
Dude, I'm looking across the room over there. It's like, you got freaking 7 trophies. You need a trophy case from one contest.
One contest, exactly. Now, whether we'll see what happens, and I plan on doing more in the future. However, I just want to reiterate that actually is that, not to beat a dead horse, but now that I've been through it, I've come out the other end of a prep. It's not that I'm cynical, but now I find it even more inappropriate for people to tell bodybuilders what they should be doing when we've never seen these men with their shirt off. Not everything is their physique, but like, should these people really be, No, not that I've been through this. This is relevant.
Well, all right. Well, Brad. All right. What else? Let's just think about contest day. Let's back up for a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Did you have to think about anything on that day?
No.
No.
No, because I got the proper posing instruction beforehand from you and Arash.
Mm-hmm.
I already I had you telling me exactly what to do. You made the decisions for my prep. You gave me the carb up foods.
Who was screaming from the curtains? Who lost his voice?
Who lost his voice because my quads kept on going from relaxed to flexed while I was hitting every pose.
Who told you what to eat, when to eat?
Yes,
That's not from any study.
No, it's not from a study. That gauge for the carb load even the day before the show when I was carbing up, I was asking Stu, what should I do for my carbs? We had a range of like 60 to 70. Should I go up to 80 per meal? What should I do? I was showing him photographs. This is what I look like. I ate 80 grams per meal.
Day of the show, playing it hour by hour.
Hour by hour.
Going by eye. That's not, there's no study.
Inhaling a bag of candy corn.
It was anabolic candy corn.
Anabolic candy corn plus anabolic salt and anabolic Nutella.
Hashtag secrets of the pros.
Yeah, exactly. That is actually a secret of the pro. I mean, the secret of the pro is you can't know the secret of the pro because a real pro coach like Stu knows what to do as the weeks go by and the months go by and the day of the show.
Well, the day of the show, it's an hour by hour.
Hour by hour, yes. So when you ask someone what their macros are, of course you can make up any conversation. It's good for conversation, but keep in mind what they're doing now was not what they were doing before. It's all a process that leads on one action to the next. That's how it goes.
So now everyone on this podcast, you, me, and Arash, are all pros.
Yes, exactly. I'm glad about that.
Yeah, well, that's nice.
That's amazing.
We could officially have our pro roundtables, but I guess if we're going to wrap this one last time, Brad, all worth it?
Yep, definitely, unequivocally, yes. No matter how tired, no matter how tired and beat down I feel as we speak about this.
All right, so tie it up with a bow, and I guess we'll come back for our next episode in a week or so.
Yes, exactly, and it's been a pleasure. Thanks to everybody that I met. It was great to meet people that day on Saturday. Awesome experience. Thanks to Ken Burley and everybody else that made that event possible.
Is that it?
Yes, till next time.
Next time. Good night.
Have a good night.